Today I'm going to share my story on how I got into shape and became fit in 50, starting right back at the beginning, how this young stud turned into an overweight man in his 30s, eventually striving to become fit at 45. It took 2 years of training to get shredded for the first time. I'll include how I gained the motivation to continue to train right up until now, and what is driving me to keep training for the rest of my life. One of the questions I was asked when I said I was going to do this video was if I was athletic as a child. The answer is no. I was an active kid who liked to ride my bike, but I didn't participate in any team sports. I came from a small school and did well in cross-country running and some track and field events. I rummaged through some drawers in the house and found the ribbons from those events. One of the first things I noticed was no first place finishes. This is the same as now. When I run, I have a lot of second to fourth place finishes, but I never finish first. I was your typical skinny teen with no muscle mass to speak of, and this continued into my 20s. I found a couple of fun pictures from my graduation and first wedding. I wore tux with tails at both events, and of course, a bow tie. My grad may have been the first time I ever wore one. Fast forward to 30, and we have the picture I usually post of me overweight and holding my son. I did lose weight after this by simply eating less food. No science to it or intelligent training. I just brought one less sandwich to work every day and drew an imaginary circle on my plate for dinner and ate a portion that fit inside the circle. I managed to trim down to an acceptable dad bod that I maintained into my 40s. The truth is, the motivation to start training was much deeper than the story I've told in the past. The story I usually share is when my son was 16, his girlfriend broke up with him and started dating a jock. This made him want a six-pack. I saw this as an opportunity to spend more time together, so we got gym memberships and started to train. Deeper than this, I felt my life was passing me by. I was divorced, and like many guys, starting over, working to keep a good home for my children to live in. Of course, when you're divorced, you don't live in that home. I shared a basement suite and eventually got a single-bedroom apartment. When the kids came over, they slept in the living room. Still, we had some fun. But I was missing out on so much. I was getting older, and there were so many things I wanted to see and do. This made me realize to do these things like travel or learn a new language. By the way, Spanish is the one that tops my list. I needed more time. The only way to accomplish this was to get into the best shape possible to live a longer and healthier life. This was the deeper motivation. The way I train has changed a lot. It started with a full body workout a trainer at the gym set up. Then, when my son stopped training, I started doing dumbbell circuits at home, which did a great job at developing my conditioning and was the beginning of my home workouts. One of the biggest mistakes I made was overdoing it. As I bought more weight, I would strength train for 3 or 4 days a week, while bodyweight training on my off days, doing progressions, working towards front levers and planches. A shoulder injury made me stop, and this is the first year since 2015 my shoulder has been pain-free, thanks to hanging from a bar for 1.5 minutes every day. Early on, my diet was unbalanced, lots of protein and veggies, and little else. If I overate one day, I would try and make it all up the next day, fasting as long as possible. Balanced dieting is the best thing I've ever learned. While the focus is on whole food eating, no foods are off the list. If you overeat one day, you don't have to reduce all those calories the next day. You can spread the reduction out over the next week without any ill effects. It's much easier to stay lean now that I keep my nutrition balanced and I don't bulk or cut to extremes. At first I worked out all my meal plans on paper, but the discovery of MyFitnessPal quickly changed that. I'll probably always track my food, although it's not necessary for most to do all the time once you understand the basics of macros and calories. A big part of what I did to stay in shape was running. It's not the best form of cardio for muscle growth, but it allowed me to compete, which I found motivational. Most of the races I've run are 5Ks, but a few years ago I started sprinting, and I love it. I'm not that good at it, at least from a competitive standpoint, but that just makes me want to train harder. The motivation for me now is still the future. How good a shape can us guys over 50 get into? I started late at 45. Can I still make gains at 60? I want to help people achieve the same level of fitness I have while still exploring what the limit is. This year's project is to build a natural gym freak physique. This will be the first time I've made muscle growth my main focus since I started training. To find out how I plan to do this while remaining relatively lean, watch this video next and keep working out while having fun. This is Lawrence from Fit and 50. We'll talk to you again in the next one.